Hello and welcome back to RPG PhD. I'm Dr. Ben, and today we're talking about one of my favorite philosophical twists on a familiar tool, the dice. We usually treat dice as mechanical arbiters. They tell us if something succeeds or fails, hits or misses. But what if we thought about them differently? What if instead of judges, the dice were the chorus, like in a Greek tragedy? In those ancient plays, the chorus didn't just act in the background, they commented on the story, reflected its themes, and reminded both audience and hero that fate was always watching. In a tabletop role-playing game, dice can serve the same purpose, a chorus of impartial fate that reacts to the story as it unfolds. Today we'll explore several ways you can use the dice not just to resolve actions, but to shape the narrative voice of your game. So let's get started. In ancient Greek theater, the chorus was more than a group of background actors. It was the collective conscience of the play. Typically composed of 12 to 15 performers, the chorus stood just outside the main action, observing, reacting, and interpreting events for both the audience and the characters. Their purpose was multifaceted. They provided exposition, filled in unseen events, offered moral or emotional commentary, and often expressed the public or divine perspective that the protagonists themselves could not see. In many tragedies, the chorus acted as a bridge between the mortal and the mythic, giving voice to fate, destiny, and the larger themes that governed human suffering. For example, in Sophocles' Oedipus Rex, the chorus of Theban elders doesn't fight monsters or solve riddles, they respond to Oedipus' downfall with awe, pity, and reflection. When Oedipus realizes the truth of his birth and blinds himself, the chorus laments not only his fate, but the fragility of all human life under the gaze of the gods. They say, "Count no man happy until he dies, free of pain at last." That single line encapsulates the play's tragic philosophy and reframes the entire story. The chorus transforms Oedipus's personal failure into commentary about the human condition. In this way, the chorus served as both audience surrogate and thematic guide. It helped ancient spectators process the emotional intensity of tragedy by interpreting its meaning aloud. When we borrow that idea for role-playing games, we invite the dice to fill a similar role, to voice the impartial, inescapable presence of fate, commenting on our hero's actions and weaving randomness into the fabric of the story's meaning. First, treat roles as narrative beats, not interruptions. Too often, rolling dice feels like hitting pause on the story, a break in the drama to check the math. But when you reframe each roll as punctuation instead of interruption, the dice become part of the narrative rhythm itself. The drum beats of fate marking each emotional crescendo and pause. When the die hits the table, let that moment breathe. Describe the silence. Feel the creak of tension in the air as everyone leans in. The act of rolling becomes a shared intake of breath before destiny speaks. For example, the knight's sword hovers inches from your throat. His eyes flicker with doubt. Roll persuasion. Now, don't rush it. Describe the stillness before the die lands. When the result is low, interpret it as the world's response, not just failure. He shakes his head slowly. Some wounds go deeper than reason. Here, the dice are not an interpretation, but the chorus's cue, reacting to the rhythm of the story, commenting on its emotion, marking its dramatic beats. Each roll becomes a line delivered by fate itself, transforming randomness into resonance. The table holds its breath, waiting not just for numbers, but for meaning. Next, read tone from the dice. Not every success feels heroic, and not every failure feels tragic. The degree of success, the number itself, carries tone. A natural 20 might just mean you succeed. It could mean divine approval, comic exaggeration, or raw chaos. Likewise, a natural 1 isn't just failure. It might signal irony, hubris, or the moral commentary of fate itself. Think of the dice as emotional interpreters. They don't just answer what happens, They hint at how it feels. The party's ranger stands before the gates of a besieged city, trying to convince the exhausted guards to let them in before the enemy arrives. The player rolls a persuasion check, a natural 20. Instead of just saying they agree and open the gates, you treat the number as tone, not just outcome. You describe it like this: the guard's eyes flicker between fear and resolve. For a heartbeat, the world seems to hold still. Then he slams a fist against his chest and shouts, "Open the gates! These heroes fight with us." Here, the 20 isn't just a success, it feels like a moment of divine timing, the kind of rallying beast that changes the story's emotional key. Later in the same session, the party's bard tries to diffuse a tense argument between the city's commanders. They roll a natural 1. You don't just say you fail, instead, you step forward to speak, but the words catch in your throat. The room goes silent. One commander narrows his eyes and says, "Easy for you to talk about unity. You weren't here when they burned our fields." The air turns cold. The 1 becomes more than failure. It's dramatic irony. The chorus of fate is not just punishing the bard mechanically, it's commenting on the cost of misplaced confidence, amplifying tension, and shifting the tone from triumph to humility. By reading tone from the dice, every roll becomes a performance cue, not only determining what happens, but how it feels when it does. Let the dice speak first in improvisation. When you're not sure how a scene should go, whether an NPC helps, whether the storm clears, or how the crowd reacts, let the dice speak first. Roll before you decide what happens, and then interpret the number as the world's emotional temperature. This approach reframes the dice as your co-author, an impartial storyteller that shapes the mood and motion of the scene. A low roll might suggest tension, suspicion, or resistance. A high roll could mean relief, generosity, or cooperation. By rolling first, you let fate set the tone before you fill in the details. And suddenly your improvisation feels guided, not forced. For example, you're improvising an NPC's reaction to the party's plea for aid. You roll a d10 behind the screen. High means friendly, low means distrustful. It lands on a 3. You smile and describe. The merchant's eyes flick to the door, then back to you. He forces a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. "You'll understand if I don't stick my neck out for strangers," he mutters. The dice have just written the first line of the scene. You didn't decide the tone, the chorus of chance did. By letting the dice speak first, you invite spontaneity, honesty, and rhythm into your storytelling. The world feels less like something you control and more like something alive, a performance between you, the players, and fate itself. Give the dice a voice in description. After a roll, don't just state the result, let the world respond. Treat the outcome as if the environment itself were alive, reacting to the player's action. When you give the dice a voice, you transform cold randomness into atmosphere, and every success or failure feels like part of the story's living texture. This is where the dice become the chorus in the purest sense, a voice echoing through the world, commenting on events through tone and imagery. So, for example, when a stealth roll fails, don't just say you make noise, instead describe the world's reaction. The ancient tomb exhales a dusty sigh as your boot dislodges a fragment of bone. Pebbles skitter down the steps. The dead are listening. Or when a perception check succeeds, a faint shift in the air brushes against your cheek. A breath the others don't feel. The temple wants you to notice something. By personifying the setting, you give the dice's verdict weight and meaning. Each roll ripples outward like a note in the story's symphony. The dice aren't abstract anymore, they're present, whispering through stone, wind, and silence. Fate isn't just deciding what happens, it's speaking through the world around the players. Use dice to reinforce tragedy and irony. In classical tragedy, the chorus often serves as the voice of irony, the echo of fate reminding us that no one escapes the pattern. Dice can play the same role at your table. When luck repeatedly turns against the players, don't rush to smooth it over or apologize. Instead, lean into it thematically. Let the chorus of chance speak through the fiction. Maybe the gods are fickle. Maybe the curse runs deeper than anyone realized. Maybe destiny itself has started to close in. Say it aloud. Give voice to the cruel poetry of the moment. When the dice fall cold, it's not just bad luck, it's the lament of the universe. When they turn merciful, it's a sudden reprieve, the world catching its breath. The dice are commenting on the drama, not just enforcing it. So, for example, after a string of critical failures, while the party struggles up a storm-swept mountain, you might describe it like this. The wind howls louder, tearing at your cloaks. Loose stones shift beneath your feet. It's as if the mountain itself doesn't want you to leave. Now, chance isn't arbitrary, it's ironic commentary. The dice have become a narrative antagonist, a cosmic observer lamenting the hero's plight. The players stop seeing bad rolls as punishment and start feeling them as part of the story's rhythm. The chorus of fate reminding them that triumph and tragedy are both necessary verses in the same song. Also, invite players to read the chorus. Don't keep the dice's interpretation all to yourself, invite your players to join the chorus. The magic of this approach is that it turns everyone at the table into co-narrators of fate, not just characters reacting to it. When a roll succeeds or fails, ask open-ended, evocative questions. How does that failure look? What does fate's disapproval feel like right now? Why do you think the gods smiled on you this time? When you pose questions like these, players stop treating dice as external arbiters and start listening to them as voices within the story. The dice's verdict becomes a shared piece of dramatic interpretation. For example, a rogue rolls a natural 1 while trying to pick a noble's pocket during a crowded festival. Instead of declaring the outcome, you ask, what goes wrong here? Does someone see you, or does fate humiliate you in some smaller, more personal way? The player thinks for a moment and replies, as I reach into the man's cloak, a child tugs my sleeve and says, Mister, you dropped this, holding up the very coin I just stole. Now everyone laughs, not because the dice ruined the plan, but because they spoke, and the player helped translate their message. That shift deepens investment and transforms the dice from mechanical judge into a shared narrative voice, the chorus of fate interpreted together. You can also think about it in terms of metastructure. Dice as thematic device. You can take the idea of dice as chorus even further by weaving it directly into the structure of your campaign. Make fate an explicit part of play. One elegant way to do this is with a fate die, a single roll that sets the tone for the entire session. At the start of each game, roll a d20 and interpret the result as the world's emotional weather, the mood of fate itself. 1 to 5 is despair, decay, or misfortune. 6 to 10 is uneasy calm or a fragile balance. 11 to 15 might be hope, momentum, or opportunity. And 16 to 20 is divine favor, rising energy, or cosmic harmony. Once the fate die is cast, everyone plays to that key. NPCs, weather, magic, even random encounters can subtly reflect that tone. A low roll might mean tempers flare easily, doors stick, and omens feel heavy. A high roll might bring clear skies, unexpected luck, or brief moments of grace. The beauty of this technique is that it gives the dice a macro voice, not just reacting to scenes, but shaping the session's theme. It's the chorus singing the prologue, setting the emotional tempo for the story to follow. By treating the dice as a structural device, not just a mechanic, you transform fate into something active, resonant, and woven into the DNA of your campaign. You can also reframe luck as moral or emotional commentary. Sometimes luck itself becomes the story's theme. When the dice keep landing one way, good or bad, don't just shrug it off as random chance, notice it, interpret it. The streak itself is part of the chorus. If a player keeps rolling well, perhaps it's not just skill. Perhaps the universe is conspiring in their favor. Maybe unseen forces are watching, or their growing confidence draws envy from others. If their luck collapses, don't treat it as pure misfortune, frame it as fate's commentary. Maybe hubris is catching up to them. Maybe the void is listening and disapproving. The chorus of the dice isn't random noise, it's rhythm. It's fate whispering through probability, turning statistics into subtext. The trick is to listen closely enough to hear the story it's trying to tell. So, for example, in a sci-fi setting, the crew of the starship Aurora's Edge is trying to smuggle alien technology past an Imperial blockade. Their pilot, Kale, keeps rolling incredibly well, near perfect results on every navigation and stealth check. You could treat it as simple luck, or you could weave it into the story. Kale's hands move across the console with impossible precision. The ship slides between sensor grids as if guided by an unseen intelligence. The AI's lights flicker in rhythm with his heartbeat. Maybe it's just luck, or maybe something in the ship has started to favor him. Later, when Kale's luck turns, a natural one on a critical roll, it's not random failure anymore, it's cosmic irony. The ship shudders. For the first time, Kale's fingers hesitate. The console's hum falters. The AI's tone grows distant, almost cold. Whatever presence was guiding you seems disappointed. By reframing luck as commentary, the dice stop being mathematical noise and start becoming a moral voice, a chorus that rewards, warns, and judges in equal measure. You can also use it for cinematic pacing. Pause for the roll. This one's simple but powerful. When you roll, pause. Don't rush the reveal. That half second of silence before the die lands, that's cinema. It's the tight close-up before fate speaks. Borrowing from theater, you can treat every roll like a musical cue, a moment of suspended breath where the audience, your players, lean in together. Let anticipation swell. Sometimes roll in full view, letting everyone watch the die tumble in slow motion. Other times roll behind the screen and describe the world's reaction before you reveal the number. The rhythm of those pauses becomes its own kind of storytelling, a heartbeat that synchronizes everyone's emotions with the tension of the scene. The dice become not just randomizers, but the drumbeat of fate. So, for example, in a game of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, the Witch Hunter is interrogating a suspected cultist in a torch-lit cellar, sweat and candle smoke mingling in the stale air. He makes a charm intimidate test to break the man's resolve. You roll behind the screen, and you let the moment breathe. The cultist's eyes dart to the door, then to the silver hammer pendant on your chest. The torches sputter. You glance at the die, a critical success. He collapses to his knees, muttering the forbidden name before you even ask it. The torches flare as if Sigmar himself demands the truth. Had it been a failure, the silence might have stretched longer. You could have said, "He looks up and smiles, blood in his teeth. You think your God can hear you down here," he whispers. In either case, the pause makes the roll theatrical. The suspense of that quiet beat transforms a single die toss into a moment of living drama. The chorus of fate holding its breath before delivering judgment. Of course, not every roll needs this treatment. You don't want to turn every lockpick or tracking check into an Oscar moment. Save the pause for the pivotal rolls, the ones where the outcome really matters to the story, or the character's emotional arc. When the stakes are high, when tension is already humming at the table, that silence becomes electric. It tells everyone this moment counts. By being selective, you keep the pause powerful. The stillness before a decisive roll, the persuasion that might avert a war, the final blow against a demon, the desperate attempt to save a dying ally, becomes a ritual of focus. Everyone leans in together, waiting for the chorus of fate to deliver its line. You can also use dice as omens and portents. Finally, let the dice exist within the fiction. In worlds steeped in divinity, chaos, or cosmic horror, a roll can be more than a mechanical resolution. It can be an omen. The number on the die doesn't just determine success or failure, it ripples through the metaphysics of the story. A natural 1 on a cleric's prayer might snuff out every candle in the temple. A 20 on a wizard's ritual might momentarily thin the veil between worlds. The dice stop being neutral tools and become sacred or cursed instruments of the world's logic, echoes of the divine, the irrational, or the unknowable. In horror or mythic settings, this becomes especially potent. A catastrophic failure might draw the attention of something vast and unseen. A miraculous success could stir forces that should have remained dormant. The dice are no longer outside the fiction, they are inside it, a pulse that resonates through the story's reality. Each roll becomes a sign, a portent, or a whispered warning from beyond. So, for example, in a game of Call of Cthulhu, the investigators are performing a ritual to banish a presence haunting an abandoned lighthouse. The lead occultist rolls a Cthulhu mythos to complete the incantation. You watch the die tumble across the table, a 99. You don't just say it fails, instead you describe, as you chant the final syllable, the wind cuts out, the sea goes silent, the candles gutter, then flare back. Every shadow on the wall turns its head towards you. Somewhere deep below the ocean groans, not in anger, but in recognition. In that instant, the dice spoke. The failed roll wasn't just bad luck, it was an omen, a prophecy delivered through the chorus of chants. When you treat dice this way, every roll feels like a communion with the world's deeper forces, divine, alien, or otherwise. Fate stops being abstract math and becomes a character in the story, whispering its own terrible truth. Now let's talk about some design implications. Building games where the dice have a voice. When we start thinking of dice as a chorus, as emotional interpreters, storytellers, and omens, we move from seeing randomness as a problem to be solved to seeing it as a design opportunity. Traditional systems often treat dice as mechanical arbiters, tools for fairness, probability, and resolution. But when we elevate them to the level of narrative participants, we open up a different design philosophy, one where chance, tone, and meaning intertwine. From a design perspective, this means asking a crucial question. What do the dice represent in your world? Are they agents of chaos, divine judgment, psychological tension, or simple realism? Systems like Call of Cthulhu and Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay already lean into this idea. The dice don't just determine success, they determine how much of your sanity or soul you lose along the way. The roll doesn't end the story, it changes the texture of the story. In this way, mechanics become emotional instruments. Designers can build for this by embedding interpretive space into resolution systems. Instead of binary success-failure, include tiers of tone. Graceful success, ironic success, grim failure, tragic failure. Games like Blades in the Dark and Powered by the Apocalypse already hint at this, where partial success or success with consequence create that same choral ambiguity. The dice don't just answer, can you do it? They answer, what does it cost and how does it feel? You can also design mechanics that make the dice's voice diegetic, part of the world's fiction. Tarot-based systems, omen decks, rune draws, or fate dice that directly alter the tone of a session, as in the fate die concept, all turn randomization into world building. The mechanics become mirrors of metaphysics. The randomness of play reflects the uncertainty of existence. Ultimately, designing with the chorus in mind means inviting collaboration with fate. It means resisting the urge to sterilize randomness through balance and predictability, and instead using chance as a storytelling partner. Every system that allows players and game masters to interpret the dice rather than simply obey them cultivates richer stories and deeper immersion. In short, if we design our games so that the dice don't just arbitrate but speak, then every roll becomes a conversation with the world itself. The mechanics gain a voice. The story gains resonance, and the players learn to listen not only to their characters, but to the echo of fate rolling across the table. When you start to treat the dice as a chorus, not just as randomizers, you invite something new into your games: presence. Every roll becomes a moment of theater. Every success, every failure, every twist of luck carries meaning. The dice stop being math. They become a voice. So next time you roll, listen carefully. What is fate saying? What does the chorus think of your hero's choices? So what are some ways you can utilize dice as chorus in your games? Let me know in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into storytelling and design philosophy, do give it a like, share it with your table, and subscribe for more weekly insights into the art and science of game mastering. As always, thanks for watching. See you next time.